It was inevitable. After nearly 4 years of brutal conflict, where the primary tactic of the Russian Federation has been to throw wave after wave of human bodies against steel and concrete, the math has finally begun to fail. A nation can only bleed for so long before its ability to wage war starts to collapse. Russia is now approaching that threshold. Too many Russian citizens have died in Ukraine. The casualty count has climbed beyond what any modern state can sustain without consequence. What began as a military problem has transformed into something far more dangerous, an existential crisis. Russia is no longer just fighting for territory in the Donbass. It is confronting a future defined by the absence of men, on the battlefield, in the workforce, and across the state itself. The war in Ukraine has turned into a non-stop killing machine. This machine does not pause, it does not negotiate. It only consumes men, equipment, and time until something finally runs out. For the men feeding this machine, there is no strategy, only survival. Most never see the front line they die on. They arrive, they advance, and within days, they are gone. Many of them die without ever firing a shot. Some never even learn the name of the town they were sent to capture. On January 7th, Al Jazeera News reported a shift that should terrify the Kremlin. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Commander-in-Chief Oleksandr Syrsky highlighted a brutal reality. During the final 3 months of 2025, the Russian army suffered catastrophic damage that it can no longer endure. The meat grinder has jammed. According to Volodymyr Zelensky, president of Ukraine, Ukrainian estimates indicate that Russian combat deaths, not casualties, but deaths, have surged by an average of 5,000 soldiers per month since October 2025. In his evening address on January 5th, the numbers were laid bare. In December alone, 34,000 invaders were liquidated. Ukraine says this figure is supported by drone footage. 30,000 in November, 25,000 in October. These figures refer specifically to killed in action. This is a critical distinction. In 2024, high casualty numbers often included the wounded who could return to the fight. In 2025, that changed. The lethality of the battlefield increased. The precision of Ukrainian strikes improved. More Russian soldiers are dying on the spot. Fewer men are returning home at all. The hospitals are full, but the graveyards are fuller. And unlike wounded soldiers, the dead do not cycle back into the system. They create permanent gaps that no propaganda can fill. Commander-in-Chief Syrsky released a chilling assessment on social media. December 2025 marked a historic tipping point. It was the first month where Ukrainian unmanned system units neutralized nearly as many invaders as Russia was able to recruit in the same period. The Russian army in Ukraine has begun to physically shrink. They are losing men faster than they can replace them. This data is backed by Kirilo Budanov, head of Ukrainian military intelligence. Head of Ukrainian military stated that Russia's average monthly recruitment in 2025 was around 34,000 people. Even with plans to bump that to 35,000 in 2026, it is not enough. 35,000 deaths versus 33,000 recruits. The ledger is in the red. If these trends hold, the outcome appears increasingly structural rather than theoretical. This is how armies die, not in defeat, but in arithmetic. Once that balance tips, morale becomes irrelevant. No amount of orders can compensate for missing bodies. This puts President Putin in a hopeless situation, largely due to his blind obsession with capturing Pokrovsk and other key towns. The more attackers Russia concentrates on a single city, the higher the casualties become, as they are sent into meat charges against fortified positions. They are trading blood for meters, and they are running out of blood. From Moscow's perspective, the logic is brutal but familiar. Hold the pressure, accept the losses, and hope the enemy breaks first. The primary factor behind these staggering numbers is the drone. Ukraine is producing drones in record-breaking quantities. Zelensky mentioned, Putin is spending the lives of 30,000 soldiers a month. We have drone footage confirming these deaths. FPV drones record direct feeds of these strikes. The war has been televised, digitized and analyzed. Ukraine has even gamified the process, encouraging operators with a performance-based point system tied to verified drone strikes. By November 2025, the number of active drone units participating in these initiatives grew from 100 to 470. This is crowdsourced warfare. For the first time in modern war, killing power is no longer centralized. It is distributed, automated, and endlessly scalable. This is what industrial warfare looks like in the digital age, and it favors the side that can iterate faster, not bleed longer. Beyond the incentives, Ukraine's production capacity has exploded. In 2024, both sides could produce roughly 1.5 million FPV drones annually. However, Ukraine has surged ahead. Retired U.S. General David Petraeus noted that with additional funding, Ukraine could produce 3 to 5 million drones a year. With the European Union's $105 billion loan package agreed upon for 2026, Ukraine will have the capital to invest even more in drone tech. The massive casualty numbers from late 2025 are likely just the beginning. The swarm is growing. Ukraine is also streamlining its bureaucracy to feed the front. As of January 5th, the Ministry of Defense has approved over 1,200 new domestic weapon systems, including 500 types of UAVs. The scale of the drone war is staggering. In July 2025, Ukraine recorded roughly 15,000 drone strikes. By December, that number doubled to over 33,000. In the last quarter of 2025 alone, Ukrainian drones targeted approximately 110,000 Russian soldiers. This is industrial-scale attrition. No human command structure was ever designed to survive this pace. Decisions that once took hours now need to happen in seconds. And unlike traditional warfare, this machine scales faster than human decision-making ever could. Russia's reaction has been typical: denial and posturing. Reports indicate Russia is sending heavy equipment and thermobaric weapons to territorial defense units in the Belgorod region. However, as the Institute for the Study of War explains, these are rear guard units. They are not trained for assault. Equipping them for offensive combat suggests Russia is desperately preparing to pull its last reserves from the border to replace losses on the front lines. This leaves the Russian border vulnerable to another Ukrainian incursion, similar to the Kursk operation. The Kremlin is robbing Peter to pay Paul, but Peter is already broke. The personnel crisis goes deeper than just recruitment. Russia is faced with a choice: rebuild its frontline units to maintain momentum, or build a strategic reserve for the future. They can't do both. In early 2025, Russia planned to form 17 new divisions and 9 brigades. In reality, they only managed to stand up 4 units total. Furthermore, these new units are structurally weak, lacking artillery, air defense, and heavy armor. Without armor, Russian infantry assaults are simply sitting ducks for Ukrainian drones. They are sending men to die without protection. Intercepted communications reveal growing panic at the front. Russian soldiers now describe the sky as the most dangerous direction. There is nowhere to hide from a machine that never gets tired. Russia needs a surplus of 70,000 troops just to fill those planned divisions. That surplus doesn't exist. In regions like recruitment centers are hitting only 40% of their quotas. People are being deterred by high death rates and, surprisingly, falling wages. While there were reports of massive sign-on bonuses, Russian funds are drying up. In regions like Samara, bonuses that once reached the equivalent of $46,000 have plummeted to just $5,000. Money was the primary motivator for the Russian poor. Without it, the Kremlin is struggling to find volunteers. The patriotism has evaporated. The mercenaries have been spent. Things have become so desperate that Russia is using dirty tricks to lure foreign mercenaries. Reports from Kenya and South Africa suggest citizens report being illegally recruited or coerced with promises of Russian citizenship, only to find themselves trapped on the front lines where they most likely face death or capture. They are scraping the bottom of the global barrel. Finally, there is the demographic ticking time bomb. Analysts point out that Russia is running out of people entirely. The birth rate in major Russian cities has dropped to about 1 child per woman, well below the replacement level. With over 1 million total war casualties estimated, Russia is literally hollowing itself out. Russia's birth rate is at a 200 to 300-year low. Demography moves slowly, but when it turns against a country at war, it becomes merciless. Putin has called for families to have more children, but as experts note, it's hard to convince people to have 5 kids when they live in a one-room apartment and their country is in a state of perpetual war. The ethnic Russian population is shrinking, while the country's demographic composition is shifting due to migration and birth rates. The face of the nation is changing because the nation is dying. Vladimir Putin wanted to restore the Russian Empire. Instead, he is overseeing one of the most severe demographic declines in Russia's modern history. History has seen this pattern before. Empires rarely fall when they are defeated abroad. They fall when they exhaust themselves from within. Will this convince Putin to stop? Likely not. He seems indifferent to the suffering of his own people, believing that the conquest of Ukraine will define his legacy. Meanwhile, Ukraine understands this internal Russian rot. They are increasing the pressure with long-range strikes on Russian oil and military infrastructure. The Russian army is a giant with clay feet, and giants fall slowly, then all at once. The collapse, when it comes, will not announce itself. It will arrive quietly. One empty unit, one failed assault, one missing generation at a time. The question is no longer whether this model works, but how many others will adopt it. What do you think? Can Russia sustain this level of attrition through 2026? Tell me in the comments below. If you like this video at all, please subscribe to my channel, my friend.